Do you want to know all about the Virginia Beach Oceanfront? This is one of the things that people come here to do in the summertime. So we're going to talk all about the oceanfront, and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone, and I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, Virginia. And I help people all the time relocate into Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach, all the cities in this area. And I like to talk about the areas around here and what you can expect when you plan to move here. And if you're a local here, and you're watching some of these videos too, I hope this is kind of nostalgic for you also. Well, today we're going to talk about the oceanfront, one of the kind of the popular things that people come to do, a destination. We're going to talk about the area around it, like what's to do in the oceanfront. And I like talking about the history, all kinds of stuff about the oceanfront. I'll also make some comments about Airbnbs and flooding that I think are good to know if you do plan to move here or plan to get some investment property. So we'll talk about some things I don't like about the oceanfront because I got some opinions about it. I'm not always a fan. Well, first of all, where is it? Where's the oceanfront? Well, on the map, on the eastern side of Virginia Beach is this really long stretch of land. It's the beach. Well, in the middle of the beach, you'll see the strip down there, Atlantic Avenue. That's the street that's closest to the water, the ocean. Well, right next to that is the oceanfront, which we would call the oceanfront. It's a section of area close to what you would see as the Boardwalk, the Virginia Beach Boardwalk, which is a 3-mile stretch on the water, but it's near the bottom right where you see that 5th Street area and that Rudy's Inlet. Going up to about 40th Street, that whole area is kind of the most touristy spot of the beach, which is what we would consider the oceanfront. And if you go further north from there, that's considered the north end, which is also oceanfront area, but is more like residential, really quiet. From a residential area, or if you drive down the back roads, it can take you anywhere from as close as 3 to 5 minutes if you're off the oceanfront, or it could take you as long as 30 to 35 minutes or longer if you're in the corner of the city. Now for history, this area is very interesting. So while the city of Virginia Beach had been starting to develop even since the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s, it wasn't until the rail system came to Virginia Beach in 1883 when this area started really picking up in activity. And then a little bit later on after that, the Virginia Beach Hotel was the first overnight hotel to be built in Virginia Beach on the oceanfront. And then the boardwalk, that boardwalk I was talking about earlier, that long, about 3-mile stretch, but it was a lot smaller back then, it was only 5 blocks. But this was originated in 1888, and that kind of encouraged more people to come to the oceanfront also. So in 1880s, 1890s, and into the 1900s, things really started picking up. People started coming here for vacations, the late 1800s, the early 1900s, and then really in the 1920s, the Cavalier Hotel, which is a really popular and historic hotel on the north side of this oceanfront area, was built, and it's still there today, and it's been renovated in the last few years. It's really, really nice. They housed a lot of big bands like in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, so this area became kind of a focal point of Virginia Beach in that time frame. And there are some museums in this area that kind of capture the historic references. For instance, the Naval and Aviation Museum and the Virginia Beach Surf and Rescue Museum is here on the oceanfront too, and it's in the spot as the first life-saving station that was here in 1903. So that leads me to what is there to do at the oceanfront? Well, it's beach. That's the big thing here is beach. There's plenty of oceanfront. There's over 3 miles where that boardwalk is. There's also a bike path where you can rent bikes up and down the boardwalk, and there are people all the time walking up and down, running, exercising on this boardwalk. It's a nice wide, long boardwalk, and then on the very south side there are piers, the Virginia Beach Fishing Pier, and then you go further down from that, there's Grumman Island Park, which is on the very south part of the oceanfront, and then if you go up and down Atlantic Avenue, which is that first street across from the ocean, plenty of food, all kinds of food, lots of seafood. 2 of my favorite places, Rudy's and Rockefeller's and Waterman's. I mean three seafood places on the south end, but there's all kinds of great restaurants up and down this boardwalk area. Then if you go on the north side, the 31st Street Hilton has a restaurant called Catch 31, which I love too. Ice cream all up and down, plenty of ice cream. My wife and I's favorite place is Lolly's Creamery, which is on the kind of the south side of the oceanfront, but it's a few blocks inland. I'll drop a link below for that one. It's the best ice cream I think I've had in this area ever. Then got lots of tourist shops, you know, all those t-shirt places, the things you would expect, and get like a nice I Heart Virginia Beach hat or whatever, like the things I don't ever get. But then up and down, a couple places where they have places for concerts. On the 17th Street is one, and also just north of 31st Street is a nice grassy area right next to King Neptune, which is a kind of a landmark that I actually have plenty of pictures of myself and other friends next to this big ridiculous statue. It's 34 feet and bronze. He's holding a turtle. And plus there's mini golfs, several mini golf places close to the oceanfront. And then iFlyVB, which is a skydiving simulator. There are several places that have multiple shops, the same business, but multiple stores all across the oceanfront. There's one place, I think it was called Sensations, which is just one of those touristy spots with the hats and the visors and all that. I think my wife and I counted like 8 or 9 different locations up and down the boardwalk. There's a lot of places to park here. Some of them are kind of expensive. Some can be, you know, upwards of $10+. But if you're a resident of Virginia Beach and you show your ID to the municipal lots, after a certain time in the evenings, you can get in for $3 for parking. And there are some metered spots also. Just pay attention to how much the lots will charge you. And if you live in Virginia Beach, make sure you have your ID with you so you can get cheaper parking. So right now, there's over 40 hotels on the oceanfront currently. Now also coming soon to this area, the wave park that Pharrell Williams is building on the what's called the old dome site. It's off the oceanfront, just a couple blocks. It will be developed here in the next few years. Huge with restaurants, a whole big complex. And I did a video about the things coming to Virginia Beach also, and I'll throw that up here too so you can watch that and get more information about other things that are coming to the city. And if you're local and I forgot some things, which I know I have, there's plenty of stuff extra here I have not mentioned, make a comment below so people that are moving here can see other things that are cool to do at the oceanfront. If you do plan to vacation or live in this area, there are a couple other beaches I'll mention. Croatan is on the south end of Virginia Beach, on that south just below the oceanfront. And then on the north side is the North End, which I did a video about the North End. I'll throw up here so you can see the difference. It's much different in terms of just the pace of living. And then further down south there's Sandbridge, which I did another video of that too, you can watch. But that's a little bit further south, and like about a 20-minute drive from the oceanfront. So unless you're going to make a point to get down there, you're going to have plenty of options for beachfront up on the north and northeastern side of the city. Now neighborhoods nearby. Now there are lots of areas around here close to the oceanfront, but if you're choosing to move into this area, you are making some very specific decisions. There are some amazing neighborhoods close to the oceanfront. For instance, Bay Colony, upwards of the North End. That whole northeastern side of Virginia Beach is awesome, quiet. Some of the most amazing property and land is in this corner. And you're also tucked away from the touristy spots, the action down in that middle section of Virginia Beach. If you go further north, it's First Landing State Park, which is a great place to run. Hiking trails is all on the shore near the beach. A short drive away and you feel like you are dozens of miles away. But you're paying a lot for that. I mean, you're starting upwards of $400,000 or $500,000 for little attached condos to start with for the most part, but you're going up to $1 million, $2 million, several $1,000,000 for this property, and for good reason. You're going to get some of the prime property in Virginia Beach. Now, but if you go further south, there's some other areas I mentioned. Shadowlawn I did a video about Shadowlawn. You can look more into that area. It's kind of like a small community that's close to the oceanfront, but it's just on the border of what you would consider easy walking for lots of people. There are some smaller houses in here, bungalow style, and that's near the inlet, the Rudy Inlet area. But then there are some other areas, condos and townhouses, and some smaller houses too. But because you're going to be close to the oceanfront, you are going to pay for it. Even in the areas that aren't as large of houses or as desirable, you're still talking upwards of over $300,000+ for the lower end. Now, Croatan is another beach neighborhood that's just on the south end of this whole oceanfront area. About a 5 minutes drive to the oceanfront, but you're going back into the $500,000 and up price range. But then if you go off the coast, that's when it gets a little more interesting, because on the northern side of Virginia Beach, Great Neck and Hilltop are places that have lots of awesome property. If you want to be close to the oceanfront, but not too close, and also tucked away enough to where you're not going to experience all the hustle and bustle of the touristy summer traffic, this is a good place to look into, especially anything up on this northern side of Virginia Beach. But if you want to be really close to the oceanfront, you're going to be in demand with a lot of other people that want that property. It's high demand because they don't make any more of it. Now, shopping. There are not a lot of places near the oceanfront that have lots of shopping opportunities, like really close. Now, while there are places that are like the touristy shops, like I was talking about earlier with those crazy hats and stuff, those are all over the place. But once you get into like grocery stores and like big box stores and clothing stores, there are places, some strip malls close to the oceanfront, but it's not until you get off onto, like, for instance, Laskin Road has lots of strip malls, has lots of options for shopping, especially like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and like some additional retail up and down Laskin Road. I do think that if you do live in this area close to the oceanfront, you might frequent the Hilltop and Great Neck areas quite a bit. Now, a couple of notes I'll mention about specifics to this area. For instance, I get a lot of questions about flooding. Ironically, flooding here is not a huge, widespread problem close to the oceanfront. There are places that, especially near the water, you will need to pay flood insurance. There are localized places that there are concerns. I'll drop a link about the flooding zones. So what I always suggest is, if there's a house, an area that you're interested in specifically, talk to some neighbors that are close by on the same street so they can give you some history as to what's happened in the past. Now, Airbnb. A lot of people ask me about Airbnb. Is this possible here in Virginia Beach, especially at the oceanfront? The answer is yes. Sometimes. Most of the areas in here that have condos, of course, they're governed by associations, and these associations often restrict short-term rentals, including Airbnb. Usually it's a minimum of 30 days or 6 months for the amount of time that you can rent to somebody. There are specific city-wide regulations for Airbnb, but if the property you're interested in at the oceanfront does not have any specific restrictions for the association or local community, then you can Airbnb as long as you follow these city guidelines. So just do the research beforehand, because I don't want you to go getting a property just to Airbnb and find out that you can't, or that it's highly restrictive and you just don't really get the value that you wanted out of the property. But there are possibilities here, especially single-family houses without associations, that can make it very worthwhile. Now, what I don't like about the oceanfront. All right, well, first of all, tourist shops. I just don't like touristy places. I don't like the feel of it. It's all the same to me. Going up to the north end, the south end, near Croatan, that's even different. But if you go right into the oceanfront area, that section, it's different variations of the same thing, and I just don't like that. Next thing is, it's expensive. So if you do like the beach, which a lot of people do, and you want to buy houses or buy property close to the oceanfront, you're going to pay a lot for it. The condos, the single-family houses, the scarcity is there, so be ready to pay those higher prices for that close proximity. In my opinion, there are some better places offshore that might be even the same price, but get you a better house, better location, but you might have to drive a few extra minutes to the beach, but to me, it's a way better deal. And the next thing is the jet noise in some spots. Now, the further north you go, you're not really dealing with this at all. And I'll drop a link also about the ACUS map, the noise zone map, so you can see where the noise zone ratings are and where the highest possibilities of jet noise in this area. So the Oceana Naval Air Station is close to the oceanfront, relatively close. It's close enough to where it can make a difference with flight patterns coming over certain parts of the oceanfront. So people that are local call it the sound of freedom. You get kind of used to it when you're a local, but if you're coming in here for the first time or moving here, it could be kind of surprising. It's not like you hear it every second of the day. You might hear it several times a day for like 30 seconds at a time, or you might not hear it at all. It's kind of random. But if you do move here, know that this is a real thing, so I can help you with this. If you ask me about locations of areas with jet noise, I can help you kind of talk you through where the biggest problem areas are. But you can use this map I'll put in the description as a reference. But the further north you go, the further away from the Oceana Naval Air Station you get, the less of a jet noise problem that there is, if any, in some places. Now, I've done a lot of videos about this area, Virginia Beach and all of Hampton Roads. So I'm going to attach some videos here that I think you might like now that you've watched one about the oceanfront, to get some more context of other parts of this area. But to get even more videos I've done, you can check out my channel. I've got a ton of videos there about the locations of this area and about real estate in this area. And if you have any questions and you want to talk to me specifically, please reach out to me. I love helping people relocate into this area, so please ask me questions anytime. I've dropped my contact information below in the description so you can reach out to me any way that's easiest for you, and I will see you on the next video.